Matt Edmundson. I'm located in the very sunny today, Liverpool, in the UK. In terms of what I do, I never know how to answer that question. I just tell people I'm a venturer. I try lots of things, and some of them work, but most of them don't. And it's just that the ones that work are bigger than the failures that I've had, if that makes sense. So currently we have a number of companies. So we have predominantly online companies. So we do online retail. I do that a lot of my day. We run gyms. We have some gyms in the company, which is a bit different. I've been doing those for a few years. We've started our own skincare brand, which is interesting. We're just about to hopefully start some sports nutrition brands. There's lots of difficult choices, and they always have impact, I think, on how you run your life. They can't not. In business, probably the toughest choice was at the start of 2013 that I had to make. So at the end of 2013, we just come off the back of our best year ever, company-wise. I think our turnover was probably $10 million US, somewhere around there, maybe slightly more. And we'd grown that year by about 20-30%, and we were doing great. Everything was going really well. And then one of our key suppliers changed their terms of supply, which threw a massive spanner in the works. They basically instituted a policy which said the more you buy, the more you pay, which is obscure from a standard business practice. The bottom line was our sales would halve overnight. We knew they would, because our prices would go up by 30% overnight. And so our sales did halve. And so we were on the back of a really good year, and yet here I was 2 weeks later deciding what to do with the company now. It was going to be half its size, and there were some very tough choices there. I wrote them down in my journal, sort of 11 key lessons that I learnt. And I refer back to that list often. To sort of really help me going forward. When your company's in trouble, you tend not to communicate that to the staff well. And so one of the key lessons for me was to over-communicate, and actually be really honest and vulnerable. I remember the first staff meeting we had, where I had everybody together. I was quite ill at the time, and so I wasn't feeling great anyway. And this was quite a significant moment for us, when I had to say to the team, "Sorry guys, your jobs are at risk." And I was just very vulnerable and open with them and honest. But so the emails and the conversation back to me from the staff was extraordinary. After that meeting, everybody sending me text messages or emails from the team, just going from simple thank yous for being honest to really, I think one guy said, "I'm really glad that you're our leader in all of this. I wouldn't want anybody else at the helm. We know you've got our best interests." And so actually they all knew their jobs were at risk, but here they were thanking me for the meeting and the way it was done. And I was like, wow, this is, if you don't treat people like crazy, if you actually trust them with information, it's amazing what happens. And so that would be a big key lesson, was to over-communicate. There's the obvious ones, like you have to confront the issues and confront them quickly. You have to deal with today, and not put it off for 2 or 3 months hoping that in 2 or 3 months life will be better. You can still hope life will be better, but the reality of it is you have to deal with today and confront today. And that's always stuck with me. Make the tough decisions, make them quick, don't fart about. Just do it, everybody can cope with knowing what's going on. People don't cope well with ambiguity and confusion. And the only way that changes is when you come in and you make some decisions and you say, these are decisions that have been made. And so, yeah, I think one of the things that I learned a few years ago, some friends of mine called me. I was coming back from London, I think, and I was on a train, and they called me and they said that he called me and he said his wife had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And this was a guy same age as me. We'd been best mates for years, and my heart just broke for this guy. And in that instance, I kind of sat there on the train and mulled over what do you do? What do you say to somebody in that situation? And I sent him a text message after I mulled it over a little bit, and I said to him, listen, I said, this is shit, but it's not the end. And interesting, look, my friend, years later, after they've come through this horrific life for a few years, they're through the other side now, which is great, so there's good news at the end of it all. He said to me what was interesting was the one text message that really helped him was that one. And I learned then that in situations like that, you have to communicate both honestly and vulnerable with telling the truth. It is crap, but you can't just leave it there. You have to also communicate hope. And one without the other is unbalanced. So if all you talk about is hope, people just think everything's fine. If all you talk about is the crapness of life, then people think everything's crap. So there has to be this balance of the two. And so when we were going through the transition we went through at the start of 2013, every piece of communication was a mixture of truth and reality and honesty and vulnerability mixed with the hope and the faith and the ideas and the belief that, we will still be here in a few years' time. But I think the team here, I think they want to go to work where they feel like they belong, where they feel like they can have a say, make a difference, have some autonomy, some responsibility, where they can be who they are and not have to worry about it. I think the team we have is quite unique in that way. So I wouldn't say that they're all career-minded. If they were, they wouldn't be working for me. I've had this conversation with them on many occasions. A sense of calling. So they that's what they have. And it's as a venturer, as a serial entrepreneur, one of the great things that I think that I need to do with any team that we build is figure out what they think their calling is and see if that fits with who we are as an organisation. And if it is, watch out, because these guys will be incredible. If it isn't, it's not going to work. So one of the things that we do when we hire people is we have a graph. It's just a simple graph with 4 quadrants. Horizontally, we plot culture. Vertically, we plot competence. And it used to be that we only would ever hire people on the basis of their competence, their degrees, their qualifications, what we call a CV, what you call a resume would say. Those documents are great at telling you what people think they're good at or what their training is. But it was funny, it came out of my conversations with Simon, actually. I was talking to Simon about this. We found that, especially when it came to people like salespeople could be very, very competent at their job, but from a culture point of view, would be very low. So we would put them in the top left quadrant, where they would be very competent but very low on culture. Although it's not very PC, we called these guys terrorists. Because actually this is what they would be for your organisation. They would be a terrorist to your organisation. They would create chaos and havoc. Because especially you saw it so clearly with salespeople, it's all about them, all about sale, and so on and so forth. And And then we understood that if people didn't connect on culture or on competence, then we just needed to ask them to leave or just never hire them. But life became more interesting when we looked at culture, where people would connect well with our culture, and if they were low on competence, the question was, could we train them? But if the people were both competent and high on culture, then this is where we call these guys superstars. This is where the real assets for your business come in. And so our whole HR process then became about measuring culture fit rather than competence, because anyone will tell you that they're competent, but to try and figure out if they would fit from a culture point of view. So we posted a job once, and I remember we had 400 applicants for one job. It was a nightmare. And just 400 CVs came straight through my door, and I just thought, I'm never going to do that again. So we changed the process and we created this application form, which tested how well we thought they would fit with the culture. So in part of our application form, there's a section which says, if you were a superhero, what would your name be? What would your powers be? Who would your arch nemesis be? And how would they defeat you? And then there's a little box where we ask them to draw and design their superhero costume. There's no right or wrong answer, but the last job we advertised, we had 9 applicants, because people just do not take the time to complete this application form. And if they do, I definitely want to talk to them, because from a culture point of view, we're probably connecting with these people. In fact, one lady, I was in Jersey at the time. There's a small island off the north coast of France called Jersey, and so I was there working with the team at our health clubs, and I had a phone call from Rach here in the office, and she's like, "You're not going to believe what's just happened." I said, "What's that?" And it was a closing date for a job, a job application that we posted, and she said to me, she said, "Well, Batman has just delivered the application form." So one of the ladies that filled out the application form had a friend bring the application form to the office dressed as Batman because of the superhero theme, and Batman came with cupcakes and the application. I thought that was great. You know, it's just all part of that tapping into people's hopes and dreams. I think my experience is certainly the people that we hire, they want to work for a place where their values and their connection with that company is more than just, oh, I get a paycheck for the work that I do. Wow.